Hey, what's up? It's Steel Gamer, and this is just a final video with my final thoughts on Legion's Watch Dogs Legion. I always call it Watch Dogs Legion or Legion's Watchdog. I don't know why I keep doing that. So, uh, basically, what I'm going to do is now that the game's been out, I've been playing it for a little bit and things like that. I'm going to give you my overall thoughts as an unbiased. I don't want to say review, but it's pretty much um, if you're watching the information I'm going to give you, it's going to be legitimate. I know everybody says that, but if you're familiar with my channel, you know I don't sway one way or the other on something. I just say it how it is. And if people don't like it, they can pretty much go fuck themselves. But basically, I've been I've been following a few things on the forum. And hey, how's it going, James? I've been following a few things on the forum as well as a few topics that a couple of people told me to keep an eye on simply because somebody used one of the videos I had put into the onto my channel regarding something that you could just do because I was bored. Oh, I don't want to say I was bored, but I put it on there. And that also has to do with partially what I'm going to talk about because everything ties together. And again, I'm not telling anybody to do one thing or another. I'm just saying it how it is. So again, this is been out long enough where I've played enough of the game to understand exactly what's going on here. All right, so the first thing I'm going to get out of the way is the baseline of this game has been absolutely fucking destroyed by the entitled gaming community. So I am gonna pretty much attack this because um, backing up to originally how Watch Dogs Legion was put together. This is a game that requires, or I don't want to say requires, let me back that up. This is a game that they had originally intended for mass recruitment, meaning it's the average storyline. The storyline isn't anything to write home about. It's the same, you can only do so many storylines. But pretty much what happens is I don't want to say basically, I don't want to spoil anything, but basically you have to fight the bad guy. It's good guy versus bad guy. That's a story. So, and I don't really pay attention to storylines, but I also don't ignore them either because a game does need some storyline. It's just depending on what you want to call it. But for the most part, that's pretty much it. Now, the way this is done, as I had seen in part of my other videos, where I said, if they implemented this correctly, it would basically revolutionize the way open world games are programmed. And they implemented it correctly so it works, but they completely destroyed the foundation of exactly why they built the game the way they did. So pretty much what happens is you have to gather up people to create a rebellion against this anti-government. That's what it comes down to. And originally, the way it worked is the whole reasoning behind recruiting, or the reason that they had put this in here, was simply because certain people in that world, or in the world in general, have certain abilities or specializations that other ones don't have. So basically, your team is going to be devised of what's the best way to put it? Unique abilities. So one person, obviously, if you're a mechanic, you can't be a doctor. If you're a doctor, you're not going to be, a law enforcement officer. Everybody has their specializations, and that's basically exactly what they built the game around. The problem is, originally, they had presented this, and then they somehow, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking when they did this, they took a poll from players that literally wound up having the players say, no, we don't want individual uniqueness. We want everybody on the team to be able to use any ability that they want. Give them any gadget, and basically doing that renders the unique ability useless. Because if one person on the team, no, I don't pay. Well, I don't want to say I'm not interested. Let me hold on. Let me address James. I don't pay attention to storylines in games, not to the fact that I don't pay attention to them and I don't get involved with them the way everybody else does. I read shit, it's a story, and that's it. A lot of stuff in games in general is filler dialogue. It really doesn't have anything to do with anything. And if people want to read that stuff or pay attention to it, that's fine. But like when you're watching a movie, there's just certain characters that you're introduced to that you don't give a shit what they say because you just don't. They're not really part of the storyline. They're there as filler, Or if, somebody's given an account of their story, I ran into this person. You're not interested in who the fucking person ran into unless they're actually involved with something that the person did. If it's just somebody, I ran into this homeless guy and I gave this guy 2 cents. You don't give a fuck about that. You're like, oh, great, the guy's good. It's just another nice thing that they did in their travels, and then you put it out of your mind. That really doesn't have anything to do with the storyline of the person, what they're telling or whatever. Unless it directly involves, or that person is literally directly responsible for something that they do. That's just how it is. So because of that, a lot of games have an unnecessary amount of dialogue in them. They just don't need to have that much in it because they're story driven. They're basically not games. They're fucking stories. And so do you buy a game to play it, or do you buy a game to watch it? It's, you don't, like somebody said, The Witcher 3 is the best game you'll ever watch. There's entirely way too much talking. I understand that it's a novel, but it comes a point in time where you just don't implement that shit. All right, so anyway, back to what I was getting at. What happens now is the entire premise of unique abilities has been rendered fucking useless. And what happens here is, if you have a character that's a drone specialist or a paramedic, they're vital to your team's ability to survive or do whatever. But if you set it up so, I'm going to use one of the missions inside the game itself to explain this. But before I do, I need to also set up a few additional things before that story gets told, as far as the premise of what I'm talking about, to bring you up to speed. So basically, Ubisoft built the entire game around having a team of people with unique abilities that only they could do. And not just have, but not when you recruit them onto the team, it gives the team that ability just from having the recruit there. But the fact of the matter is that wasn't it. If you wanted an NPC or operative or whatever they are to have a specialized, if you wanted your team to have a special ability, you had to not only find that person in the world and get him to join you, but that recruit was the only one that could use that ability. So they, in that regard, the entire recruiting system was built around that. That would be the purpose, to recruit somebody. And they built the game around that. But these fucking morons, somehow, I don't know what the fuck happened between that and when they did some poll and released the game, but now everybody can do everything, and it basically renders the entire recruitment system pointless. The only reason to recruit anybody, or the people you have recruited to change to them, is a preference. There literally is absolutely no gameplay need to actually change to anybody. There just isn't. It literally has destroyed the entire foundation of the entire game. It's absolutely ridiculous that they did that. And this is due to entitlement of the gamers. So what happens is, and this is just, a lot of people like to complain. Like, somebody's like, oh, you're just complaining. No, I'm not just complaining. I'm saying this is what they did to the game. It's fucking destroyed. And why would they go ahead and do a system that required unique, NPCs to be on your team with unique abilities if you wanted to use them, and then just remove that? And then act like, oh, you still can recruit everybody. Yeah, but it's a preference issue now. It's not a need. And you literally you don't need to do anything. So, case in point, here's what happened. Here's a prime example of that. Okay, so in the game, if you're not familiar with it, there's something called, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with doing that. I'm just saying it just destroyed the foundation of the game, rendering whatever they worked toward useless. It's pointless. It has no actual gameplay use. As where the original way they did it, it had a gameplay use. So there's a difference between having a system in place and then asking people if you want. They basically ask people, do you want this system, or do you want the system you want? And the game developers don't even know how to make a game anymore at this point, because they're asking people how they want the game to be, instead of the developer saying, hey, here's how the game is, fucking deal with it. So my point is, sorry, I'm stuffed up. I took something. All right, so let me get back on track here. Okay, so what you have is the there's a mission in the game where I forget the name of the mission. I don't know. Anyway, it's like a couple missions in. What happens is you have to recruit this construction worker, because the construction worker has access to what's called a heavy cargo drone. That's basically a drone that can lift stuff up. It's what it is. And so there's several different types of drones, but a heavy cargo drone is something you can stand on and fly around. And so the construction worker has that ability. The problem with this is you have to not only scan the area till you find a construction worker, but then you have to go on a mission to get that construction worker to join your team, and that's it. The only necessity for that is to scan for the construction worker and then recruit the construction worker. The mission itself does not require the construction worker NPC to actually complete the mission. And what's fucked up about that is, before I even ran into that mission, I rode over on a heavy cargo drone, which means I didn't even need the construction worker to get it. It was the only reason. If I could have skipped scanning for the construction worker and recruiting it, I would have, because I didn't need them. There was literally absolutely no use for me to do that. But the premise of it was, we need a construction worker to summon this drone. That's bullshit. You don't need the construction worker to summon the drone. You need the construction worker to continue in finishing the mission. And the whole problem that they did with this is they fucked it up by allowing every member in the entire team to just do whatever the fuck they want that every other character did. Why the hell do I need a construction worker if I don't need to use it? If I can summon a heavy cargo drone with anybody on the team, why even fucking go through the mess of construction worker? There's literally no gameplay point. So now I have a construction worker on my team I'm never going to use, and things like that, because I could just summon it with any character I choose. So there's no real reason to actually swap characters in there or recruit them. There just isn't. They literally undermine the entire foundation of the game by allowing these fuckheads to fuck with the game. And I'm not the only person who says that. And so basically what they did was they handed everybody, and this is kind of what I said in my other videos, they literally handed people everything right off of the bat, so everybody could use everything. And literally, the abuse of the game mechanics is out of control. And it's what I said. It's gone beyond the point with just money. It's fucking ridiculous. And so, it's hard to explain, but if people want to build a team, fine. But there's no gameplay need to do that. It's all every one of these. If you go to the Ubisoft forum and read this, you will find everybody defending this shit are all the people who want everything fucking handed to them and do no work. So, like many things, people can complain, but I actually have a structure on how they actually should have put that in the game if they were going to go this route. Because if you're going to remove the unique abilities from everybody, that's their decision. But at least keep the integrity of the game by doing something like this. What should have happened is they should have strictly forced everybody to play the game as they designed it to begin with before that poll. Meaning, not only if you have a construction worker to get a drone, but until you would have to physically use the construction worker and keep everything the same until you beat the game. Once you finish the game, then have that as an unlockable where you can just interchange it with all the teams. But at least keep the team members. At least keep the integrity of the game itself intact by not allowing the shit that they're doing now until the game is finished. There literally is no reward, end-game reward at all for this. It's just, it ends. And then it's just an open world. But by the time you get to the end, there's nothing to do. If they had actually kept that locked behind, the ability for every team member to do everything at once behind the ending of the game finish as a reward unlock, it would have actually made the end game much better had they had done that. So as I said, it's not just about the complaint. It's about they fucked with the game. Yeah, but that's irrelevant. The thing here is the entire baseline of the game itself was built around recruiting people who have unique talents and abilities. They then destroyed that by allowing every single, unique talents and abilities have no point now. They literally have no point. I mean, on occasion, it's the individual that can do some random thing during a battle, but that's about it. It's not like you need to have somebody specific to go do something. It's stupid. Like, there's no valid reason why, if you're going to set up the game as the construction worker is the one that you required in order, so you can't call a cargo drone without the construction worker, then keep that. Make it so the only possible way you can get a cargo drone is with a construction worker. Like, I should not be able to swap to anybody on my team or anybody and I should not be able to get a cargo drone without the construction worker, period. I just shouldn't. So they set it up so the construction worker is the only one in the game that can call a cargo drone. That's what that ability is. That's the reasoning you do that. And then they just got rid of it. I can call a cargo drone with anybody. So why even have that mission? Why even point any of that shit out? And why say, why act like, you need a construction worker? You don't. You just need the ability. You don't even need the construction worker on your team. I flew over there. I flew into that mission on a cargo drone. But yet the mission is setting up that the construction worker is the one that requires the use of a cargo drone. So yeah, they are kind of setting up some premises for use, but it's not just for use of the character and not just use of certain things. It's the use of the character's specialized ability, i.e. calling in a heavy cargo drone. If your construction worker does that, why are you allowing everybody on your team to do it? And why can I even do it before I arrive at that mission? So the point being is, if they should have kept the premise where, hey, if you want to be able to call a cargo drone in this game, better find a construction worker, and if you want to use it, better use the construction worker, otherwise you're not going to be able to. They should have left that alone. It probably would have pissed off a lot of people that wanted everything handed to them, but it doesn't fucking matter, because the entire recruitment system is not built off of a need. It's strictly built off of a preference. It's not a need. They built the game around needing recruits to do certain things with certain abilities, and then they threw it away. It's ridiculous that they allowed to do that. So that brings me to a couple points on the forum topics that a couple people have sending me to keep an eye on. One of them was the video that I had made, and I made it about something you could do with the cargo drone and Spider-Bot. And when that was put on there, this is the mentality of how fucking stupid people have gotten. When that was on there, you have people, the same crowd of the entitlement, going in and totally undermining the foundation of the video, because what I put it up there was to say, hey, look, and if you watch it, I says, hey, I haven't seen a video about this yet, and I haven't seen anybody do it in a stream, so I figured I'd just throw it out there. Now, that doesn't mean somebody else did it. I just said I never saw it. But the point here is that, hey, here's something cool to do, because it's utilizing the game system uniquely for stuff to do, thinking about things, doing things, experimentation, things like that. So even if they took out the ability for the cargo, the uniqueness of each character and their abilities, what happens is the ability for a gamer to think and start combining stuff together to do things you just normally wouldn't do was the point. And if you actually look at the replies to that, it's fucking absurd. Somebody's like, why don't you just get a Spider-Bot and do it on your own? It's like, these fucking people have no concept how to play a fucking game anymore. It's ridiculous. And so, I didn't really check back in with the topic or not. I'll probably check back in with it later, to read it. But it's like, really? Somebody can't even put something on the forum without it getting shot down, because I think the last thing I read on it was... So let me clarify. I did check in with it. I haven't checked in with it lately, but the last thing I did check with it, the person said, or somebody in the topic said something along the lines of, they were talking about efficiency from what I remember them reading. I kind of skimmed through it, but they pretty much said, and if I could be wrong in this, but so I want to take this with a grain of salt, but I'm pretty sure that they basically came off as, well, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just do this? And basically taking their attitude of, entitlement and applying to the game and saying, well, that's not efficient. Nobody does that. In other words, undermining and destroying the entire creativity level of that game where you're mixing and matching stuff to say, why don't you just take what's given to you and just, why don't you just take the entitlement items that we authorize, we got the developers to give you, and then go in there. And then people play the most efficient. And I think somebody wrote back to him about, again, I kind of caught this and I didn't read the entire thing because I don't get into that shit. But I think what they basically wound up telling the person is, that's not efficient. That's entitlement, because what winds up happening is they were saying something along the lines where being handed everything at the game and then picking the only item that's overpowered and then running and gunning and everything and skipping all the other playing and things like that, kind of what they said to my video, is not efficient. That's just idiots trying to rush to end game content, or at the end game. This is something they said. It was something to do with, they mentioned the word end game in there. So I'm assuming they says, all you're doing is you're taking end game content, cheesing your way through, or playing the game non-efficiently and then trying to say that's efficient. No, that's fucking retarded, because that's just, you're ignoring all of the other aspects that make the creativity on this game because you want endgame content. That's really what it came down to. So the idiot was talking about endgame content, using endgame content, and then trying to say that's efficient. No, this is, you don't just, if you're going to run and gun stuff, yeah, that's a way to play, but if you're just going to freaking do that in the entire thing and shut down every other type of creativity aspect on that entire, on the entire game, then don't go around saying it's efficient. That's just fucking stupid. So that brings me to now, I couldn't believe this shit. Everyone's like, we should have haircuts and everything else. What? Somebody said it best on there. You don't need 500 fucking outfits in this game. You don't. It's not the fucking Sims. You don't need all of this shit. And what winds up happening is, if you add all of this cosmetic shit into the game, you detract from actual gameplay. So people, basically, if I recall correctly, somebody on the forum said, it's getting to the point where this is just going to become The Sims. You're not even going to have a game anymore because you want all this cosmetic shit, and you're just going to clog up the entire coding, the amount of coding space you do with this horseshit. That's it. It's literally going to turn into the fucking Sims. You're not even going to have a game anymore. It's just about going, I want this. You don't need 500. Somebody was saying somebody was using ridiculous numbers. It was actually rather funny. They're like, you don't need 200 pairs of pants. You don't need 500 jackets. They were just saying all this stupid stuff. I probably exaggerated those numbers, but they were literally saying, you don't need like 86 pairs of sunglasses. Or they said some absurd number like that. And you don't. Like, why do you need all that shit? You don't need any of that. You just don't. So now they're trying to fucking turn it into, can we get this for DLC? Can we get that? They're literally trying to fucking cram it into The Sims. It's absolutely stupid. And so, first they fuck over the system by saying we want everything handed to us. Then they complain the game's too fucking easy. And then they want all these cosmetic shit, which detracts from the gameplay, but yet they complain that they want more difficult stuff because right now the game is absolutely too easy. It literally does not matter what avenue you take. Even if you personally restrict yourself from using certain things, the game's still way too easy. And so that's because they didn't lock this shit behind the finished product. They should have forced people to play the game and finish it before releasing before anybody could use all this shit. I don't know, it's just stupid. So anyway, that's my final thoughts, my overall thoughts on this, and that's pretty much it. So until next time, this is TL Gamer signing off. Have a good day or night.